Let's go ahead and jump into our webinar. I'm Andrea Corpening, and I will be the facilitator today. I am so excited to welcome our panelists to this event. We're going to be covering some tools and tips and resources for hiring remote workers. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, we had to jump into working in an environment where people had to work from home, and we had to survive in that environment. Well, now we see that as people are returning to work, there still will be a need for remote work. So today, we're going to dive into some of those resources. I would like to welcome our panelists. And so I will give them a moment to introduce themselves. And let's start with Dr. Sandra Taylor Sawyer.
Well, good morning to everyone. My name is Sandra Taylor Sawyer, and I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center here at Clovis Community College, serving Curry, Roosevelt, and DeBaca counties. And just excited to be here just to have this great conversation that is very timely in this part of our life. So thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you. And next up, Cindy Bryan.
Good morning. My unmute's not cooperating with me. My name is Cindy Bryan. I'm a partner with Carr, Riggs & Ingram in their Southwest Division, which includes 9 offices across New Mexico and 1 in Lubbock and 1 in El Paso. I am the head of the Client Accounting Services, which encompasses everything from payroll, bookkeeping, financial statements, certain financial statement reporting, just about anything you could think of your business might need help with. That's what our department does. And I want to thank everybody for inviting me to be in on this very timely conversation as well. We've all experienced some remote work over the past year, and it looks like it's going to continue. So I thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you so much. Glad to have you, Cindy. And we have Sarah Weiss. I believe I said your last name correctly.
Yes, ma'am, you did. My name is Sarah Weiss. I'm the Employee Services Manager at Flats Hoe. I've been with the company for 12 years now and have worked in the accounting and HR departments. Also want to say thank you very much for inviting me to participate today.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a few questions we're going to go through, and we will be able to hear from our panelists and their expertise. And if at any point during the conversation, if you have a question, I encourage you to add it into the chat box, and we will be sure to answer questions as we go through the webinar. So let's jump right into it. Our first question is, what are the main differences between an employee and a contractor or a freelancer?
Good morning. This is Cindy Bryan. I'll take that question. We work with that worker classification every day. Typically, there's a few tests, but the bottom line is who has control? Who controls the work every day? Who do you provide all the equipment for your worker? Do you tell your worker when to work and how to perform their work? They use all of your software, and the product comes out in a manner that you would like to see. My favorite example of a contractor, which this is a short-term contractor, not a long-term contractor like we're talking about, but I say everybody always knows that the plumber is an independent contractor when you call him to come to your office, because you're not going to tell him when to come or how to do his job, and he's going to send you a bill when he's done. And really, that's even if they're a longer term worker, those are some of the questions that you ask yourself. Are they doing the work for someone else, the same kind of work for someone else? Do they bring their own equipment and expertise to the job? Do they send me a bill when it's done? Because typically our workers either turn in hours or they're on some kind of set salary. And so at the end of the day, it comes down to who controls the work for that type of job that you're looking to hire somebody for.
Yeah,
I think the other, oh, go on, Andrea.
you can go ahead.
Okay, and just to piggyback on what Cindy was saying, it's really so critical to think about as a independent contractor, you're not giving them detailed instructions on how the work is going to be accomplished. It's basically just saying that, here I have a project. And this project needs to be finished by June 1st. And then you let them go. And they do it. And to just repeat, again, what Cindy was saying, they're using their own tools. They are using their own equipment. And sometimes another way to kind of think about this too, is that there is a beginning and there is an ending too as well. Can you think about those terms?
Yeah. Yes, that's a really good point. And if they're signed up with the taxing authorities, we're in New Mexico. If that person is asking you, are you going to resell my service? Okay, I need a non-taxable transaction certificate because I'm already signed up with New Mexico Taxation and Revenue, or they charge you gross receipts tax on your invoice, as they should, then that is another sign that they are an independent contractor, because they're already acting like one, taking responsibility for their taxes, and they're reporting on their side.
Right. And another sign in addition to that too is that within the city limits of Clovis, if they're working within that, then they need to be register their business with the city of Clovis. And regardless if it's whatever city it is in New Mexico, they need to be registered with that municipality.
Yeah.
So that's another sign also.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That is an excellent point.
So that's very great information. And so, Sarah, I would love to hear from you. Can you share maybe an example of when you've had to decide whether you're going to hire an employee versus maybe a contractor? And so what kind of goes into that decision?
So just like we were saying just a minute ago, the first thing that we're going to look at is determining whether they could be classified as an employee or an independent contractor under the Department of Labor and Fair Labor Standards Act. So we're going to assess how much control we want to have over the position and how the work is done. We're going to look at how long we expect to have a need for that position. So if it's the answer to those questions is we have an ongoing need, we want to control how it's done. For example, customer care. We want to control how our employees are interacting with our customers. We want to be able to say, do this, don't do that, and maintain that quality there. And so we're most likely going to go with an employee in those cases. An example of a time when we might choose a contractor would be related to burying fiber. We have our own crews that bury fiber, but there's a lot to be buried out there and not enough people on staff to do it. And so we might hire a contractor to go out and do a specific job. And like you said, it has a beginning and an end. We say, this is what we want built. This is how the fiber needs to be buried. And you use your tools and equipment and go do that and come back and send us an invoice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know as a small business owner myself, I have had to hire people to come in as a contractor to support me. Of course, they do have their own equipment and I don't have a lot of control over how they do it other than sharing my preferences and how I like it. But as a small business owner, I have not been in the position to hire employees, but definitely have worked with contractors. And so let's talk about taxes. So we know that there's a difference between employees and contractors or freelancers, but Cindy, can you share with us kind of the tax implications of hiring one over the other?
Sure. there are a lot of different implications. Hiring an employee, you have employment taxes and you have income taxes that you're responsible for. Employment taxes include FICA and Medicare, Social Security and Medicare, or FICA is another word for Social Security, Medicare withholdings and employer match. You have federal income tax withholding that you're responsible for, and you have state income tax and state and federal unemployment that you're responsible for. And when you're hiring remote workers, this becomes really important on the state level because it is typically determined by the domicile of the remote worker. So if you hire a remote worker in California, say, and you are not registered, your business isn't registered in California, you'll then be required to register in California and pay California unemployment taxes and withhold California tax from your employees' wages. A sole proprietor or a contractor, and on the other hand, they're responsible for making sure they take care of all of those types of taxes for themselves and their own employees, and pay any state sales or gross receipts tax that might be due on that money. And further, of course, this isn't taxes, but there's also the issue of workers' comp. If you have remote workers, they count as a worker, just like one that's in your office. And so you might have workers' comp considerations. And then if you hire an independent contractor and that independent contractor can't prove that they have workers' comp, then you'll be responsible. Your workers' comp carrier will pick that payment up on your workers' comp premium. So those are things that you need to watch out for when you're hiring remote workers with regards to taxes. The federal income tax is the same across the board, but the states can vary, and you can run into that when you hire remote workers in other states. Okay.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm so thankful for people like you as a CPA who can take care of that for us and help us make wise decisions.
You bet. That's because, unfortunately, there's a lot of help out there for that. That's for sure.
Yes. Awesome. And so now that we've talked about the difference between the employee and the freelancer or the contractors, we now see that we've reached the point in the pandemic where the remote work is here to stay. And so we're going to see more of hybrid work environment. And so we see where some employees have been working from home for some time, and now they're going to be asked to return to the office. Or we also see that we notice that some positions can be performed remotely, where an employee can work from a co-working space, or they're allowed to work from home on certain days and return to the office on others. And so we anticipate seeing more hybrid working environments. So let's talk about hybrid working environments. Sarah, I would love to hear your perspective on the remote work and becoming a hybrid work environment. What's your experience with that?
So we definitely have experienced hybrid work environments over the last year and are looking to get more into that going forward. Just so that everybody knows, a hybrid work environment typically combines both remote and in-office working. And so employees, like you said, are coming into the office several days a week and going out to work from home a couple of days. So our experience has been good. There have been a lot of benefits, I think, to having had the experience of working from home that I think will carry over into the future. So to me, one of the biggest benefits of allowing a hybrid work environment is the amount of increased flexibility for the employees and the employer. And so now our employees have had the experience of going home, working from home. They have the equipment that they need from home to work from home, and are easily able to bounce between the office and their home office. So in the future, if we were unexpectedly all required to go work from home again, or there was a huge winter storm that kept us all at home, it's going to be really easy for our employees to transition back to doing that because they're already set up to do it and they have that experience. Also, I think another benefit going forward is going to be related to spreading illness in the workplace. In the past, an employee may have felt like they, were sick, might have been contagious, but maybe they didn't really feel that bad they could work, and they would have been tempted to come into the office and may have gotten other employees sick along the way. But now they can log in from home and work. So we have a lot of flexibility that we didn't have before.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I would love to follow up with another question. Can you share a little bit about maybe the technology that they have that they're able to use from home?
Yeah, and I actually asked a couple of other platform employees to join the call as well so they can chime in. But I would say from my own experience, having programs like Zoom or Microsoft Teams is a huge help when you're trying to join meetings from home or work from home. And I'll be the first to always say I love dual monitors. Having a second monitor at home is huge. Phone systems that you can transfer between the office and your home office. And I can definitely have the others chime in with the more technical side of what types of equipment you'd be looking for if you were wanting to transfer your employee base to working from home. Do you want me to go ahead and pull them on?
Sure, I think we could do that right now. That would be great.
Okay, so two of the people that I've asked to join are Steve Rickman. He's our IS manager, information services manager, and he manages our professional services groups that help businesses with their IT needs. And then also I have Hannah Robertson on the call, and she is our business sales supervisor. And so she has a lot of insight as to what a business might want if they're looking to have their employees working remotely. So Steve or Hannah, if you want to chime in.
I'll go ahead and start. So I'm Steve Rickman. One of the challenges that we first looked at was making sure that everybody had the equipment they needed at home to be able to work from home. So we kind of, in a rush, did it in a, for lack of a better word, a hybrid way. There were some people that had sufficient equipment at home, computer, monitors, and stuff that they were willing to use to work from home, either because they were already using it to work from home for late night jobs or something like that, or they just were computer people and had nice equipment at home. The other part was providing equipment to employees that did not. And so what we ended up doing is our method for getting back to the office is using a virtual private network or VPN connection. The VPN connection actually uses a client on your software or on your computer that you can engage, and it will connect you to your network at work so that your PC is just like it was sitting on your network at work, for lack of a better word. And then what we would have them do is, rather than sending them home with a computer that had all sorts of software that was special to the needs of the company, we would have them use a protocol called remote desktop. And with remote desktop, then they could access their PC at work, and it was just like they were sitting at their desk. They had all their files, all their programs, everything they needed. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either use a VPN. There's also programs such as Splashtop, which allow you to do it without a VPN. The difference between those is whether your network security allows them or not. So there's various ways you can accomplish that, but getting down to the nuts and bolts of it is that we want them to experience at home what they experience at their desk. And by using remote connections, we can do that. One other thing I would want to mention is, if you were at home, you can be very casual about documents lying on your desks at work because only workers and coworkers will see them. If you are working at home, you want to make sure you have a safe environment for your papers. So just make sure that you have a place to stash those away and make sure your computer's turned off because you don't want just anybody walking in and being able to get on your company assets. Our one challenge though was phones. And so Hannah is primary in helping us resolve that problem. So I'm gonna let her talk.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Actually, it was interesting because in the middle of the pandemic, Plateau decided to move to our product that we sell. So we converted our whole company to Connected Voice, and that's our name for what we call voice over the internet. So we sell voice over the internet phones to our customers as well as use them internally now. And the really cool thing about that is you can take the phone anywhere. So as long as you have an internet connection, you can be anywhere and look like you're at the office. So our employees, as well as our businesses that we sell to, can give their employees a phone. You can take it home and plug it in. You could take it to a motel. You could take it to your grandma's house, wherever you need to work, and still be able to get your calls uninterrupted. And so that's come a long way to old PBX phone systems, which is where you had a big cabinet on the wall and you had to be in the building or connected via that cabinet, in order for you to get your phone calls. So that's what we've done. And another really cool thing about it is you can also get an app. So the app goes right on your cell phone and you can then take your calls on your cell phone and they're still calling your office phone. So they still don't realize that you're down the hall talking to Steve or you're, in the parking lot at lunch or whatever. You can still answer your calls via the app on your cell phone. So we've been able to get all of our employees their calls uninterrupted. And like I said, as well as we've been able to really move a lot of businesses to this service because everybody obviously was panicking in the fact that, they needed to get their phone calls. They still needed to run business, but everybody had been sent home to work. So that's the thing I like the most about it is you can be on a meeting and say the meeting runs longer than you thought it was going to, and you need to go down the hall or you need to go to lunch or whatever. You can actually just push the phone call straight to your cell phone without any interruption. And the person doesn't even realize that you're now, talking to them. So that's one of the really cool benefits of Connected Voice, which is, like I said, our version of voice over the internet. So that's been a really big help, especially for all of our small businesses throughout our markets, because as you all probably know, that was, the biggest panic is how do we get our phone calls and still do business while we're not sitting in the office? So I think our employees have adapted really well to it. Everybody seems to love it. They can carry their phones with them. If they like the hard desk phone, they can carry it with them to their house and plug it in. All that it requires is an internet connection. We have employees that, work in other towns. We have employees that travel a lot, so they can take it with them to the motel. We have employees that report to numerous locations. So instead of them never being able to get their calls, they can just take the phone and plug it in, in Roswell or Vaughn or Clovis or Fort Sumner. So that's been a really big help for us internally, I believe, as well as our customers.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. That's really great information to understand that we can actually work from different places. We can have people in another county if we needed to, or working from their home or a co-working space. And so one of the questions that we had come through was, well, if people can work from home and they can work off-site, how do you maintain productivity with the home work portion? So which of our panelists would like to share some of your tips for maintaining productivity?
So
I can
I'll go on.
go ahead.
Sarah. Okay.
No.
Okay. So she'll chime in after me. One of the things, because, I've been on both ends of it, where I've worked as an independent contractor as well as a employee as well. And I will say definitely during COVID, as we worked remotely, and I just don't tell my boss, I feel that I was so much more productive than I have been, in the office. And the main reason, and my husband really had to check me on this, it could be way into the evening hours and I was still working. It could be really early morning and I'm starting. And so, you know, when you're looking at remote workers, one of the negatives about that, or the cons, is that there's no beginning and end, you know, when you're working at home. And so it's really important to really have a schedule. But we have found that really in our area, they have really been very productive. There is and I was trying to bring it up too, but there was a study done where productivity actually increased. And I want to say it's either 10 or 15% from remote workers versus those on site. So.
Yes, I find myself working late, getting up early. Work is always going on when I'm working from home, so I can definitely relate to that. Sarah, would you have something you would like to add as well?
Yeah, so for us early on, that was definitely a question. You know, how are you going to know that the employees working from home are as productive as they'd be in the office? And one of our managers asked a really good question. He said, how do you know they're productive when they're here? They're sitting at their desk. You see that they look busy, but how productive are they really? And so that kind of changed the way we thought about remote work and productivity. And in the end, I think it comes down to trusting your employees, communicating your expectations, and then paying attention to whether the results that you're looking for are being achieved. So instead of worrying about, are they waking up early to do the work, or are they, you know, coming in maybe later in the day to do the work, the focus is changed to, is the work being done? Are they just getting as much done results wise as they would have been in the office?
And, you know, to just one more thing to add to that, going back to the different technology and software that's available as well too. There are different project management software that's out there. And I think Chase is still on too, but Trello, and I think I said it right. We actually use that, you know, before COVID to really just track, you know, what our tasks were going to be, what's the next step. And we were able to see, you know, what each other was doing, and to still be on the same page. And so that's still a part of being productive, is still to be able to collaborate and to use those different software programs to really monitor, engage, and again, make sure everyone is on the same page too.
Yes, I can second that. In our business, we use workflow tracking, and as you can imagine, we have a lot of deadlines and things that we have to track. And then we have a lot of questions of one another, you know, as we work through the day, through our research and everything. And so we've been able to use, again, Microsoft Teams and Zoom and the workflow tracking in order to make sure that, again, to mirror Sarah, I think we were getting the results that we wanted. We were meeting our deadlines, things were getting done, and we were also still able to collaborate with one another, where we might have in the past gone down the hall to look and see, oh, I can't figure this out, come here and look at my screen. We were able to continue to do that sort of thing with Zoom. So yeah, I can mirror that. That is how we in our business helped maintain productivity through the remote work. So.
Right. Yeah, I think communication, and I know Sarah has and Cindy as well have spoke about that too. Communication is so key. And again, there are different software. There's a Stack that's available to kind of help with the real-time communication. However, probably caution definitely would be not to over communicate. So that can be a drawback as well too. But in your communication, again, making sure that everyone knows what is required, what needs to happen, and then those deadlines, you know, that Cindy was talking about. That's crucial.
That's some really great tips. So thank you so much for sharing. So one thing I want to do now is, in order for us to maybe encourage more companies to offer more remote work or even the hybrid work environment, let's talk about some jobs or tasks that you find can be done remotely.
So, and these are, you know, again, a lot of jobs that can be done in-house physically as well, but really anything where you are using the computer really can be done remotely. But some of those things, definitely bookkeeping. Not to take anything away from Cindy, being our CPA here, but you know, just a bookkeeping task to keep those records, those day-to-day transactions that need to be done, and then having that document then uploaded to, you know, your CPA, whether it's in-house or a independent CPA. So bookkeeping definitely is a remote type work as well. Any, you know, the really big thing is really social media. That would be an excellent remote type job that can be done, and really anything with social media, and even content writing too. I think Cindy's chiming in.
No, I think you're spot on with the bookkeeping. And what I was going to say is, even small size businesses that may have a multi-level approval process, maybe for paying bills and that sort of thing, there's solutions out there that you can send all your bills to a certain place, and they can go through a approval process through your managers and then back to you for payment without having to have complicated software. And so bookkeeping, again, you're keeping up with your social media is great. We have experienced in our business kind of a change in the paradigm of thinking of how you have to do things like tax returns and bookkeeping. And even the clients, you know, have embraced some of the technology that's out there so that we can help them do their bookkeeping and tax work remotely. So those are some of the biggest places you can gain some great work from using the remote technology.
Awesome. I would say, as a small business owner, one of the first things that I had to outsource to an independent contractor was my bookkeeping, because that is not my strength. And as a small business owner, my attention needed to be on money generating activities. And so that is one of the very first things that I had to outsource. So now let's transition into where to find people that you can hire. So people you can trust, reputable workers. And so I would like to share some resources that have worked for me, because when I first started my company, I was a military spouse and I didn't know what to do, but I started as a freelancer myself. And then as I grew my business, I was able to bring in my own independent contractors. So I would love to share some of the resources that have worked for me. And I'm going to, you should be able to see my screen here. So here are some websites that have worked for me. I actually hired my bookkeeper from Upwork.com. If you've ever used Upwork, it is a great source for finding independent contractors to kind of pick up some of those jobs or tasks that we've mentioned. And hiremymom.com was actually where I started as a freelancer myself, providing my training and consulting services. I was a mom, but I had a career that I had developed before becoming a mom. And so I was able to really get my business out there. And then I've used Hire My Mom to hire independent contractors that are at home looking for work and that have really great levels of expertise that I didn't have and that I needed to support me in my business. But there are also some local resources for our Clovis businesses. And two of them that I want to share right now that a lot of us don't consider are the military spouses at Cannon Air Force Base. There are a lot of spouses that are wanting to work. They sometimes can't work on site every day, but a lot of them have really great skills and experience. And so if you have a job that you're trying to post and you're looking for some great resources in our community, I encourage you to contact the Cannon Hiring Our Heroes. They have a military spouse professional network and you can share your job postings with them. And there are people that are looking for on-site work as well as remote work as well. But Cannon and hiringourheroes.org is a great place to start. And then through the Chamber and the Economic Development, we have actually recently started Clovis Remote, which is a system and a program for us to help local candidates at Cannon as well as local residents in Clovis to find remote work. And so we have a lot of great talent in our local community that want to work. Again, they may be able to work as an employee or as an independent contractor. And so if you have something, the email there is remote@clovisnewmexico.org. And that is a new program that we have recently launched. We actually have people in there that do medical coding. They have certifications in that. A lot of people that have done bookkeeping and administrative work. And many of them have computers. They're ready to go. And they are just looking for the opportunities to be hired. So those are some resources that I wanted to share. So for our panelists, we would love to hear from you, any resources or websites or any other resources that you would like to share for finding some quality candidates.
Hey, Andrea. So I don't know if this would probably apply to hiring in person as well as maybe hiring an employee that wouldn't be here long term, maybe is planning on moving. But when we have a job posting, we'll send it out to Cannon, like you mentioned. We'll also send it to CCC or ENMU, hiring graduates that maybe aren't looking to stay in Clovis, maybe looking to move away, but on that same thought, they may be looking for a reason to stay. And so we're always extending those job opportunities out that way as well. So I thought I'd mention those.
And you know, in addition to that, some of the social media platforms, really in particular LinkedIn, is also a great site to, at least if you have someone in mind, then you can always do more of a due diligence to look at their profile on LinkedIn. And so that's a great place, just for double checking who you're looking at. And I was waiting for someone else to say this, but word of mouth, that I will say probably definitely because I know what the chamber, being a past president of the chamber, there have been a lot of positions that have come, or people that have come through word of mouth, and but everything that we've already talked about, that's still a part of it though. But
Sure. Well, also, I guess this is more for candidates, not employers, but I would say if I were looking, I would look to the industry where I want to work, because for us, like CRI, we've been hiring remote workers for the last 20 years. In the beginning, it didn't start as hiring them remote. We would hire, actually, we have offices in Clovis and in Alamogordo. So we would hire fantastic military spouses, and we didn't want to lose them. So that's when we started the remote work in our offices, because we did not want to, they were so good, we did not want to lose them. So we started 20 years ago finding ways for them to work remotely, and it's been a great success for our firm. But I would say, if you're looking for a position in an industry, or a bookkeeping or any type of thing in a certain industry, I would look to those websites of that industry you'd like to work in, because they are posting jobs for remote workers. So, you know, be proactive in doing that as well. And employers post those jobs.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. So, since we've talked through some resources of where you can go to find people, let's spend a few minutes talking about the interview process. So if you're going to be interviewing someone that will be working remotely, I do have 2 tips that I want to share that I've used personally, as well as I help with my clients when they're trying to hire people. The first one is, I recommend that you find ways to observe the skills or the background of the person. And so I am a big advocate for role plays. So if you're hiring someone for customer service, you can create a scenario and kind of have them maybe walk you through how they would handle a situation, so that you can gauge their level of customer service skills already. Or if you're looking to hire someone for social media, you definitely want to look at their current social media, and even maybe have them create a draft of a scenario that you give them. So being able to see the skill level of the person is important. And then I'm always an advocate also for personality assessments. First, the hiring manager to understand their personality. So if you tend to be where you like to understand and kind of control how things are done, understanding the other person's personality, or if you're more hands-off, being able to find someone that meshes well with what you expect in your personality is important, especially because they won't be on site. So those are my 2 tips that I wanted to share for the interview process. Who would like to share your tips for interviewing?
I think my comment would be more related to helpful tools in interviewing remotely. So Zoom has been my best friend when it comes to very easily being able to set up an interview, send them a link, having them log in along with it, you know, the manager, whoever else is going to be in on that call, and feeling almost like you're sitting in the same room together doing that interview.
Yes, Zoom is wonderful to be able to interview and have that feel like you said, you're in the room with them. I also like it for the candidates, so they can share, you know, their portfolio or share details as well. So it works hand in hand for both people. Do we have anyone else that would like to share any of your tips for interviewing?
You know, I really, with everything that you have already said, I think the one thing that is really important to remember is that you still want to treat that remote interview just as you would, you know, any other interview or face-to-face interview. And so with the questions and the different projects or different things that you want them to do, you would also do that in a face-to-face meeting, and really try not to think of a remote interview as something that's prejudging. Okay, just don't have any prejudgment when you're actually doing those remote interviews. So, for example, and I don't know if you all have noticed it, but I've been trying to change my background. And you may see something, in my office or in my background if you were interviewing me that may give you the wrong perception. So really what I'm saying is just still be open when you are doing these remote interviews, and really treat those candidates just as you would any face-to-face candidate. I hope that makes sense.
It does, yes. All right. So we have talked about a lot of information. We've talked about the difference between employees and contractors. We've talked about the tax implications. We've talked about technology and how to have a hybrid work environment, and to resources for hiring and interviewing. So we are going to stop for questions. We have one question that I'll start with. It says, how would you handle requests from employees to receive assistance from home office work, such as fast internet cost, printer and ink, and other items that employees may ask for if they're working from home? Who would like to share your insight?
So I will say we haven't had any requests from employees that haven't been within a very close drive to a business office. So that's one we haven't experienced yet. But for those that have requested ink, paper, whatever they needed while they were working remotely during COVID, we've said, you're welcome to come and get the supplies you would need, just to as if you were working in the office. Or they also, of course, would have the option to work from the office too. So not exactly the same, but a little bit of what we've experienced.
I think this still goes back to kind of my previous comments about treating a remote worker the way that you would treat someone who's physically in the building. But if there are supplies and equipment that they need and to do their work as an employee, then being the employer, those are probably some expenses that you'll need to take care of. Because you would do those same things for a employee that's physically in your building. But again, there's no law, and Cindy can definitely chime in to say that, that you must do this, but it is a business expense, so you can write it off.
That's true. I think from my perspective, I think it would be important to set those expectations up front in your employee manual, and maybe even a supplement for remote workers. So, these are the things that we're going to supply for you, and so that way they have some clear expectations up front. It doesn't mean that those requests might not come in and that you might, accommodate them, but it'll sure give everybody a roadmap. I like to have it written down to begin with, because when something does happen, we have something to look at. We're not just making up the plan going forward. And that way you have a clear and consistent expectation from every remote worker as to what you are going to supply for their remote work when they're an employee. Now, if they're an independent contractor, it's up to them. That's on them. That's part of their equipment and their things that they have to supply to do their work. So, yeah.
And you know, that probably could be maybe somewhat, and Cindy, you know, check me on this too, maybe a determining factor, whether or not you want that to be an employee versus an independent contractor, that they have, you know, this high speed internet. But the great thing that, and the reason why we're doing this is definitely because of one of our resource partners, and that's a Plateau. With their gig city. So, you know, we could definitely have any remote worker here in the Curry, Quay, and Sarah, you'll have to tell me the different counties that you
all the counties.
Where that internet portion won't be a problem.
Right. Right. Particularly in the rural broadband, I think we're missing out on some employees that maybe they are remote and they would be fantastic workers, but there's not enough, you know, internet in the rural areas for them to be successful working from home. And I know that is a countrywide issue, and I know Plateau's working on that as well. So that kudos to them for that, for sure.
Yes, sometimes we have to look outside of, you know, where we are to find really great talent. And so this does open up so many different opportunities for us to find the right people, the right skill level, and make it work for our companies. So that was really great. And then I see another question is about software. So we've mentioned some other software that we can use to increase the productivity and collaboration. So I want to list some of those. I know we mentioned Trello earlier. I've also used Monday.com. That is one where you can kind of track projects and see where people are, assign deadlines, and work with multiple people across different departments as well. Another software that I also use, I use a lot of Google Docs and the other Google Suite documents that allow me to have collaboration with people across, again, multiple locations, and truly collaborate together. Does anyone have any other collaboration tools that you're using that work really well?
Of course, this is more specific application than the just general collaborative tools. But when you find yourself with people in multiple locations and they're doing multiple things, often you have accounting issues that revolve around that. And sometimes you need managers or people in different locations to approve invoices and approve billings and do different things like that. We use several software packages for things like that, such as Xero accounting software, which you can collaborate on bill payment and things like that through Xero. We use, of course, QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online. And one of my favorites is Bill.com. When you have a remote working and you need remote workers to approve billings and to approve invoices that you've received from your vendors, Bill.com allows your vendors to email invoices directly to Bill.com. And those invoices are created, you know, they create a bill that it then is downloaded into software like Xero or QuickBooks, and it saves you some data entry. And then with Bill.com, those invoices can go through multiple approval levels. So you can send it to the manager to approve the bill. Yes, this is a valid bill. And back to the, you know, first to the bookkeeper to code, then to the manager to approve, and then back to the owner to approve the payment. And it's really big time software, like big companies use Oracle and those kinds of software that allow that sort of thing, but it allows just the rest of us to do that sort of thing as well. And it works really great in the integration with your QuickBooks, but that can help the collaboration on that end as well, because there's a lot of that needs to be done too.
So some of the things, just to echo what you said, we definitely have used Google Drive, which has been really important to the work that we do, and also Dropbox. And we do bounce between, just depending on who we are working with. We've used Dropbox as well. I haven't used this one, and I'm really not a fan of password software that keeps your passwords, but that may be something that you need in your business. I would probably definitely have a conversation with our friends at Plateau about this as well too, but there are some software programs out there that could help you manage your passwords too.
Thank you so much. So we don't have any more questions at this point, but I would like to give all of our panelists the opportunity to share details about their companies and who they can contact. I would like to start with Sarah and the Plateau team, because we've been hearing about a lot of the different resources that they can provide. Sarah and your team, if you can kind of tell us who people need to contact and some other opportunities that you can help them with.
Yeah, so definitely I'm happy to pass along any questions that anybody might have from today's webinar, and so they can contact me directly for that, and my information's on the website on the careers page, or I'm happy to pass it along here as well. And then Steve, for the professional services group, do you have a preference, or is it, they definitely can always call into our customer care group or come out and see us as well.
So for professional services, we usually start with a business services or account exec, which is Hannah's group. So let me have Hannah give her contact information.
Thank you.
I'm sure, definitely. My email address is hannahr@plateautel.com. You're welcome to save that. And I can get you in contact with whoever your business account executive would be for your area. Beverly and Dawn are our Clovis representatives. Dawn's new, so she's in training. Some of you probably know Jana. She retired last month, so she's off on a beach somewhere. But Beverly has already started visiting with the chamber as well. And so anyone else is welcome to contact me, and I can pass you on to whoever.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, this is Cindy. Oh, Cindy Bryan. We have multiple services, multiple partners. And so the best person to contact in our firm is Marius Stein. His email address and phone number, I'll have him put up into the chat, but his phone number is 505-348-9103. And we have a fantastic partner in the Clovis office, Michelle Kirkland. You can contact her, but depending on your specific need, Marius can get you to the best person within our firm to help you with that, because we can help you from any one of our offices. We're accustomed to working remotely.
Andrea, I just have a short presentation in PowerPoint. Okay, I can share, sorry. Hey, so we are the Small Business Development Center here at the Clovis Community College. And our mission is to develop skilled entrepreneurs and strong businesses. And we are located not only throughout the state of New Mexico, but throughout the USA and its territories. And here's just a quick slide of the local staff that we have here, myself, and then Dominique Chidas as our assistant director, and then Patricia Becks. And so what we do, we provide business consulting on a professional level, and it's at no cost. All of our services are confidential, and we provide unlimited services to startup as well as our existing businesses. We also provide low or no cost training, and we love to partner with our great partner, the Clovis Curry County Chamber of Commerce, as well as Clovis Industrial Development Corporation, to put on a lot of these trainings. And so what we ask our clients to do is definitely do the work necessary to succeed. We can give them pros and cons about their decisions, but they make their own decisions. We ask that they do work with our business advisors. And of course, I know Cindy will like this, to always seek the advice of a professional accountant and or attorney as needed. We do have 2 other sister programs, and this is for individuals who want to do business with the government, educational institutions, or tribal entities. So we have our Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and Johnny Lodwick in our office covers this portion of Eastern New Mexico. And for those businesses who want to provide their products or services to the global market, they could contact us, and we can get them in, connect them to our New Mexico International Business Accelerator. And so we just again like to thank the Chamber and for inviting us on, and we really just appreciate just offering some tips. And should I give my last words too at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you know, our previous mayor, he always liked to use acronyms. So I really tried to do this one, but it really didn't work. But it's WWBH. So who, what, when, but not the how. That's how you know the difference between an independent contractor and an employee. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I would like to pass it over to Ernie or Chase.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for participating this morning, and the panelists, thank you for your expertise, and definitely Andrea and Rachel. So I will be the first to admit here on the remote working seminar hosted by the Chamber and CIDC that I was never open to remote working as the Chamber director. I mean, based on the way our organization is, I mean, we have Chase and I, 2 separate organizations with the Chamber and Clovis Economic Development, but we basically have 2 full-time people, which is 2 full-time people in the office, and that's Kim and Nick. We have a part-time person, Pat, that we've recently hired to help us with all these recovery programs and things. And then we have 1 full-time remote worker, and that's Rachel. And so it was a perfect scenario, and everything we've talked about this morning is all, I mean, it's like our case study. It was word of mouth that we learned about Rachel, actually from PJ Robinson when she was at the yoga studio, and she told Rachel that we were looking for somebody. And so then Rachel came to work here and fit in quickly and definitely added to the value of the Chamber team. And then I don't know how much longer it was. It seemed like when Rachel came and told us that her husband was being transferred, PCS or whatever. And so Chase and I immediately decided that we love remote working. So we offered for Rachel to work for us remotely. And so we sent her home with the phone that we got from Plateau during the pandemic that we all had. And so it just has been a a perfect situation for us. And actually, I mean, when you're here at the chamber, I mean, we're the front door of the community and people are coming to the museum and everyone calls and, you know, it's what we do. I mean, at least we know we have one person that's working full-time, focused and not interrupted. You know, I shouldn't say that, but there's a lot that goes on here. And so we're just, I mean, really this whole program, this whole webinar today was all organized remotely by Andrea, who is also working for us, and Rachel. And so we put on the remote working and all of the initiatives that we partner with Plateau as it relates to the TruGig and the Life in Clovis and all the different things that we have done. These ladies have taken the lead on that, on these initiatives for our community, and they've done it remotely. And so, yeah, we're the best case study of remote working here. And honestly, I never thought I would ever do it, because on any given day, you know, like I just said, I mean, the chamber is really run by volunteers, but it's such a small staff, and we need everybody to do something. We need 3 people to go to the road and pay, another person to answer the phone, and the other person to let people. It's just, you know, and so we always know that there's somebody that's focused and uninterrupted by all the different events and things that we do. So we really appreciate you, Rachel and Andrea, both of you. You're making Clovis look really good, and Plateau and SBDC, and I appreciate Cindy. Your company is our accountant. And I never thought about this really, but it didn't bother me that before you guys were there and accounting and consulting had the business, and we work with Gary Bender and his crowd, his crew. Our specific bookkeeper that was working for them was working from Florida. So I guess
Yes.
we should have liked remote working before, but I love remote working now.
Yeah.
And so we're happy to promote it to the community and to Canon. And so, Chase, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I just think that times are changing. I mean, with COVID, and we've learned a lot. And I think that with Ken Air Force Base, with the commander talking about finding jobs for spouses, I think this is a great fit. And we hope to roll this out, obviously rolling out to Canon initially, to the whole community. But thanks, Andrea, for getting everything together to make the seminar happen, and Rachel for helping promote and get the word out. So we're going to continue. This is just another piece in the pie of the whole process that we're working on, and I think it's a great opportunity. I think you're going to see, you read the news, you'll see, I mean, everybody's looking for this type of atmosphere, and I think it's a new trend that's going to continue. And so I think we're on the cutting edge and on board to move it forward.
It would have been great if we would have had a webinar a year ago for those of us like myself that was forced to go work from home, because some of us did better than others. I didn't do too well.
Well, thank you so much for that. We do look forward to hosting more events and providing the resources that we can to help people as we find our new normal, or kind of work through what life has brought us at this point. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We will put our contact information into the field, and we will also hopefully launch the recording of this session so people that want to see it are able to watch it at a later time. So that's all I have.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Special thanks to our panelists. Thank you, Cindy and Sarah and Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thanks, everyone.
We're looking forward to some cupcakes from you, Ernie, for your birthday tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh my.
Kale Onalani.
You got it, sister. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.